Hello, everybody. I'm Bernie Goldberg, and this is the No BS Zone. I'm here with the Renaissance man of the Rockies, John Daly. How you doing, John?
I'm good, Bernie. How are you doing?
Did you watch the Super Bowl?
Parts of it. I'm not really into football. I haven't been in a long time. I used to be, but my wife and my daughter wanted to watch it. I think in part for the halftime show. So
Well,
I
I'm
was in the
guessing
room.
I'm guessing you have some thoughts about that. Let me just read you a headline from National Review: "A forgettable halftime show at a forgettable Super Bowl." That sort of does it for me, but I have a feeling it doesn't do it for you. What's your take on the halftime
Well,
show?
no, I was more just sort of interested in all the controversy surrounding the Bad Bunny stuff. To be honest, I couldn't care less about Bad Bunny. I couldn't name a single song that he sings. But it was I thought it was sort of fascinating how this was just one of those things where everything gets politicized today in our culture, and this was no different. And I really couldn't understand a lot of the controversy going in. Some people were saying that Bad Bunny's not a U.S. citizen. We should have U.S. citizens, but he is a U.S. citizen, and we've had lots of non-U.S. citizens perform at the Super Bowl over the years. U2, the Rolling Stones, your buddy Paul McCartney, the Who, Coldplay, Shakira, Rihanna. It goes on and on. But then it was the whole Spanish speaking thing. I'm like, the most interesting one I saw, and someone actually asked me about this in Friday's Q&A, was Franklin Graham, the evangelical leader. He complained that there was a moral problem with Bad Bunny being there, because
But not with the president he supports.
Yes, exactly right. He said it was part of a sexualized agenda, him being there. And Graham then endorsed the TP USA Super Bowl halftime show, which had Kid Rock, who, but I can't even read some of his lyrics here, Bertie. But I did watch it at the halftime show because again, my wife and daughter were interested in it, and I thought it was fine. I actually thought it was just visually was one of the least sexualized Super Bowl
Well,
halftime shows.
the dancers were pretty sexualized.
Well, I mean, but you compare that to just the cheerleaders on the sidelines. The dancers were wearing had quite a bit more clothes on than the
Well,
cheerleaders did.
let me jump in and make 2
Sure.
points. The most important point you made was tangentially about the Super Bowl, and it's one of the most important stories of our time. And that is, I'm quoting you directly: everything has become politicized. That's the story of our time. Everything. You can't. You buy a donut at a donut shop, and somebody's going to find a political angle to that. The second thing you said is factually incorrect. I've never been a halftime guest or act at the Super Bowl. And no, don't smile. You said when you ticked off the list of people who have been, you said U2. I have not.
Oh, okay.
So I have not. You said U2, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was spreading fake news, Bernie, about you.
All right. I think that was funny. U2,
Good
right?
one. No, that was good. That was well done.
Okay, good. Thank you, John. That's why you're the Renaissance man of the Rockies. You pick
That-
up on stuff like that.
that's right.
Here's my question for you, John, and even more importantly for everybody listening to us. Is Donald Trump finished with the American people? Or more accurately, are they finished with him?
Oh,
Several new polls out. He's underwater. He's so far underwater in almost every poll that comes out. I think I mentioned this to you earlier, John. He's going to need scuba diving gear to stay to keep breathing. I mean, let me read you a recent Pew Research poll. His approval rating stands at 37%. 37%. I mean, that's terrible. Democrats are never going to support him. We know that. Republicans, by and large, not entirely, but by and large, will stick with him. But it's the independents that decide elections. He's lost independence on his 2 major issues that got him elected: the economy and immigration. They loved him on immigration when he shut down the border, but ICE is a different story. This is from a Gallup poll before Minneapolis, which is a turning point, I think. But before Minneapolis, independents had him. They approved of him at 29%. No, that's just, the question will become, can he somehow regain the trust and the support and the approval of the American people? I'm not in the prediction business. Yeah, it's possible, but I don't think so. I think he has irretrievably lost the support of a majority of the American people. All right, he never had a majority to begin with. He was in the high 40s at some point. Now he's in the 30s. Now it's Minneapolis, it's Greenland, it's the constant threats against our allies. You know what it is, John? It's the daily chaos. We're exhausted, and I don't think he's going to recover.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, those things you mentioned. It's also people's view of the economy. You know, consumer prices. So we talk about how this was Trump, one of Trump's, I think it was his biggest. The economy was his biggest issue that he won on. That largely had to do with people remembering that things were pretty good during his first term up until the pandemic, and after the pandemic, things were not as good under Joe Biden. You know, inflation went way up. If the economic policies from Trump's first term were kind of what he employed in the second term, I think we'd be in a lot better shape right now. But no, he went hardcore in on the tariff stuff. It has not let prices come back down. It has inflated prices. This last January jobs report was quite bad. It marked the worst start of a year since 2009, and I think we all remember what was going on at the beginning of 2009. That was the Great Recession. I'm not saying we're in a recession now. We're not, but it's good for some context. But, you know, manufacturing jobs, which were supposed to be created by these tariffs, are in the toilet right now. All of these promises that there was a radical policy, you know, imposing these enormous tariffs on all these countries. All the promises of the good things that were supposed to come have not formalized. So people are seeing this in their everyday lives. The stock market's doing great. One of our readers keeps pointing that out, which is great. I think that's the numbers show that's largely on the back of AI technology. So
that won't make up for the discontent of
right.
the price of lettuce.
Right. But you talked the word. I thought you had an important word there, exhaustion. Now people, I think, sort of forget about this, but people were exhausted with Trump during his first term. By the end, I think through most of his term, but I think a lot of people have forgotten that during those first 4 years in office, the GOP experienced its biggest electoral losses in almost 70 years. You know, they lost the House, the Senate twice, and the presidency by the time it was all over. And they lost it to a very unimpressive candidate in Joe Biden. And I think this second term has been much more, you know, I'd say it's more chaotic than the first one, but then you could say, well, what about the pandemic? I'll say it's much more needlessly chaotic than the first one, and people are already exhausted with it. I mean, we're just a year in, and that's where we're at right now.
You know, sometimes we try to get too analytical. I think it's simple. People don't like Donald Trump. They don't find him to be a likable person. Likability, as I've said before, is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. And in politics, it's a real big deal. The second point I want to make before we move on, as Karl Rove has famously said, politicians should underpromise and overperform. And Donald Trump has done the exact opposite. He said prices were going to come down on day one, which was a silly promise because prices don't come down. Even with inflation, even if it's at 2%, which is the target, that means they're going up at 2% a year.
Right. And just to add something to that real quick, all the results of these tariffs, they are not largely included in the inflation rate. The inflation rate is sort of a broad spectrum thing. The tariffs are specifically targeted. They're transactions. They're specifically targeted on individual items. So it's like an artificial inflation. But yeah, so that's people, you know, I'm glad I think when Biden left office, the inflation rate was 2.8. I think last time I checked, it's like 2.6. It's roughly the same, a little better. But that doesn't even take into account, the artificial increase from all these tariffs. So that's we're still dealing with that.
We'll get to the implications of his unpopularity in a few minutes, but what Donald Trump needs, I'm not giving Donald Trump advice. I want to be very clear about that. And I'll make a broader point. I don't think journalists should give Donald Trump advice. I know some who do. I know one pretty well who does. The reason I say they shouldn't, what happens if Joe Blow gives Donald Trump advice and the advice is really bad advice? He's a journalist reporting to his audience. What's he going to do? Say, I really blew it. I gave him advice and now we're in World War III. I mean, journalists should not be giving advice to presidents. That's my thinking. But what Donald Trump needs to do if he wants to turn this around before it's too late, I think it's too late, but if he wants to turn it around, he needs to say, I know what the problems are. I know it costs too much to buy a loaf of bread or a box of cereal. And here's what I'm going to do about it. The mistake he made was he overpromised and underperformed. And that's something I don't think he's going to be able to get out from under. But if he has a chance, he needs to say, this is what we plan to do. And I think he's incapable of admitting that he said something wrong in the first place. And pivoting for him is not going to be easy, because pivoting away from Minneapolis is going to be a job all by itself.
No, that's true. And I think there is something to that. There's this empathetic tactic that Trump doesn't have. We remember Bill Clinton famously saying, I feel your pain, showing that he acknowledges what people are going through.
Do you know why Donald Trump hasn't expressed that?
Because he doesn't have any.
Exactly. No, exactly.
Yeah.
He has no empathy.
No, the term I always see thrown around online is that Donald Trump cannot fail. He could only be failed by others. And that's I think that explains so many things. And it also explains why whenever he does something that's ridiculous, and I think we're going to talk about one other thing in a minute on this,
right.
But whenever he does something that even the people on the Republican side, his allies are all, man, someone gave him some really bad advice. Someone must have taught. I'm like, no, it's not the advisors that are doing it. It's.
But that's a perfect segue to our next topic.
Right.
Donald Trump reposted a video on his Truth Social website, as everybody knows by now, of Barack and Michelle Obama portrayed as gorillas, as apes. This is blatantly racist. I mean, you just don't do that. So after supporting it or defending it, Carolyn Levitt saying this is fake outrage. I don't like her, but she's got a tough job. She defending the president is not easy. But then they took it down and they said they blamed it on a staffer. I don't believe that for a second. I don't know about you, but I don't believe that for a second. But that's a perfect example of what you just said. He doesn't take responsibility. It's always somebody else's fault. He doesn't fail. Somebody else failed him. That's what we're witnessing right now. That staffer should be fired if that staffer exists. Who's the staffer? Did they fire him? It's all BS. And this is the no BS zone. So I'm not putting up with this crap. He posted a blatantly racist video, and he needs to say, I'm sorry, it should have never been up there. And he can't move on, really. This is one of the reasons his popularity is so far underwater. This is another reason. Tomorrow, there'll be another reason. And the day after that, there'll be yet another reason.
Yeah, and this isn't the first time he's used that excuse either, that some staffer did this without his knowledge. But I mean, people got to remember this happened around like midnight. This is when Trump he has these famous late night tirades on Truth Social. This is not, there is a Dan Scavino, his social media guy. He does have access to Trump's account. He posts stuff during the day, usually related to some, whatever's going on that day. But this, obviously there wasn't a staffer at midnight logged into his account posting it was part of this video was the fake 2020 election, rigged election, Dominican voting machines, all that stuff, and then
If a staffer hacked into, or not hacked in, but went into my account and did something that blatantly bad, I'd have his or her rear end out the door before you can say, sorry, Mr. President. I mean,
yeah.
I haven't heard any outrage over this. I
No,
mean, there's an outrage among Democrats and some Republicans. The others are following the pattern of cowardice, and they won't stand up to this president no matter what he does. If he puts Barack and Michelle Obama portrayed as apes, and every Republican doesn't yell, this is wrong, what will they yell this is wrong over? What does he have to do to lose the support of Republicans? I have an answer. I believe there's nothing he can do that would lose the support of most Republicans. But this is so easy to condemn.
Oh yeah, and there were some people, I should note, there were some Republicans who called it out.
Absolutely.
Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott did. What was funny, I thought his phrasing on Twitter was pretty funny. He wrote, "This is the most racist thing this administration has ever put out there," and I thought that was interesting. I'm like, so this is the most. What's the second? What are some of the other racist things?
Exactly.
You did, but it was funny though, because when Trump later did delete it, it was funny then to watch all these GOP politicians come out and heap praise on Trump for deleting it and frame it as this brilliant act of benevolence and bringing people together because he deleted what he himself had put out earlier.
Do you know how pathetic what you just said sounds? I mean, he portrays the former president and the former president's wife as monkeys, yeah. And people are braving his courage for taking it down.
Right.
That's an act of courage.
I will give Trump. So if we were to paint the very best case scenario of what happened, I think Trump was the one who did it. Obviously, I mean, I think everybody realizes that, even if they don't want to admit it. But the best case scenario is that he found this video that, again, it was a crackpot video on the 2020 election being stolen, and he didn't watch the end of it before he posted it. I can perhaps buy that, but it doesn't. The fact that they went into immediate defense mode instead of just saying it was a mistake at the beginning and then throwing a staffer under the bus, and then Trump comes back and says, "Oh, it was him," but all this stuff. I mean, it's just a mess every time.
Let's take the most benign possibility, the one you just mentioned.
Right.
What preceded that? What preceded that, as you alluded to, was that he was saying the 2020 election, or posting a video saying the 2020 election was stolen. Right. It is February of 2026, for crying out loud, and he's still whining about an election that wasn't stolen. At least 60 times they went to court, they couldn't prove anything. And he's still whining, he's still complaining, he can't get over it. That is a sickness.
Yeah, and it's funny because people, whenever I bring up the 2020 election and how Trump reacted to it in January 6th, whenever I write about it, people, why can't you just move on? Well, I'm like, he doesn't move on. He's still talking about it. He pardoned all these people. He's out there still saying it's, and like, he talks about it more than I do. So yeah, it's sort of interesting.
Interesting. You're way too kind. Interesting.
From a psychological perspective, it's interesting.
From a psychological perspective, it's a sociopath. That's what it is. And I'm not calling him names. Right. I've checked the things that qualify somebody as a sociopath. He checks all the boxes. Okay, starting with lack of empathy. All right, let's move on to our final topic, the midterm elections. As some of you know, my crystal ball is still in the attic, cracked after I, in 2016, confidently predicted Donald Trump would not run for president. And if I was wrong and he would run, he certainly wouldn't win. So the crystal ball cracked at that point. It's in the attic gathering dust. So I'm not making a prediction, but I'm going to walk a fine line about the midterms. This looks real bad for the Republicans. And and I don't think they can turn it around. I think it's. I know it's only February, and between February and November is a long, long way in politics. But I just don't see him turning it around. I don't care if the stock market hits 60,000. That's not enough. People don't like him, and mostly independents don't like him. That's the key to all of this. When you lose the independents in what should be a tight race, you can't win. And I think Republicans, as the polls indicate, have lost independents. That doesn't mean they've lost them in every single congressional district, but I think the House is in serious. I mean, if I were betting, I wouldn't bet the Republicans maintain control. Here's the more interesting one, because I think that's gone already. I think the House is gone. They could lose the Senate. Republicans can lose the Senate. If this is a blue tsunami, everybody can go. And I think, well, I know Donald Trump won't take responsibility. He'll blame history, and he's right. Historically, the people take it out on the president in power. It's an approval rating of a report card on the president who's in the Oval Office. He has low approval ratings, so he's going to lose, but he won't take responsibility for any of it. It'll be somebody else's fault. It'll be bad candidates. It'll be the fake media. It might be rigged elections. But I'll tell you one thing, John, and this is I'm absolutely 100% certain of. It won't be Donald Trump's fault as far as Donald Trump is concerned.
No, that's correct. And yeah, the GOP, the House has got to be gone for the GOP. I mean, just the numbers, and that's I think everybody knew that for a while. I guess the only question on that front is how big the Democratic majority is going to be in the House. But you're right, the Senate, it had felt reasonably safe for the GOP for some time. They have a pretty good buffer there in their majority. But, you know, the new polls are showing that even deep red states like Alaska and Iowa and Ohio are now in play. They weren't in play before. So, yeah, it is possible that the GOP is going to lose the Senate. I would still say it's probably a long shot, but the trend lines are not good. And, you know, we talk about the impeachment that will likely come as a result of the Democrats winning back the House. You know, even if the Senate takes, even if the Democrats take back the Senate, I don't see a conviction happening regardless. Right. But yeah, there are so many. It's what's interesting to me about the impeachment idea is that there are so many angles they could come from to impeach Donald Trump. Well,
there's no shortage of things they'll come up with. Go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just going to say there's a new one, and this has been talked a bit about, but. I don't know if you've seen this, Bernie, but there are a lot of you know Andrew McCarthy for National Review. Yeah. For those unfamiliar with him, he's a conservative lawyer, a Fox News analyst, pro-Trump guy. He tries to be, you know, in every instance that he can, and he's an admitted Republican partisan. He's, you know, very much in favor of the GOP doing well, but he's been looking into this UAE crypto scandal with Trump, and he's saying. What he's finding is far worse than anything that was, you know, criminal activity that was ever alleged, or corruption, I should say, that was alleged about Joe Biden. And this is a guy who's very pro-Trump, you know, in most cases. So that's something too that you could add that to the impeachment list.
You know who doesn't care?
Trump.
and MAGA, yeah.
Right.
Let me segue and possibly end with the thought that you've expressed in the past that I want to bring up because I think it's important. I ended my column this week about the midterm saying the fat lady isn't singing yet, but she's backstage rehearsing. And then I added a line, and you influenced this line even without our talking about it. I said, whether Donald Trump is listening is a question we don't have an answer to, but whether he cares or not is another question we don't have an answer to. You don't think Donald Trump cares about what happens in November, do you?
No. You know, we said that a few times now. I don't think he cares about Congress. I don't think he cares about legislation. You know, I think if someone asked him, you know, would you prefer the Republicans win? And I think he would prefer that he has these, you know, these Republican powers in Congress, that can kiss up to him and run interference for him and all that stuff. But I don't think he cares that much about losing to the Democrats in Congress, because he then has this foil. He can blame them for getting in his way and stopping him from doing things, and he'll just continue to do executive actions wherever he can. And yeah, I don't think he really minds that much either way.
A woman with an advanced degree, whose undergraduate degree comes from a first-rate college, asked me in all seriousness, you're sitting down, right?
Yes.
Asked me in all seriousness, can Donald Trump put his likeness up on Mount Rushmore? You think that's funny, John?
I do, just because he probably can. I don't know what's required.
What do you think anybody can do if he decided to do it? That's the question. Of course, he won't do it, because that would be a bridge too far for most normal Americans. So he's not going to do it. I want to make that clear. He's not going to do it. But if he decided to do it, are you going to stop him? Who's going to stop him?
Well, I would assume Congress can.
Putting his name on everything. He's putting his name on everything in town. He put his name on the Kennedy Center. Did he put his name yet on Washington National Airport? He's putting his name on building. I'm waiting for it to be the Lincoln Trump Memorial in Washington. So it was a crazy question. But when you think about it, again, it's not going to happen. But when you think about it, you say, is this something he's not thinking about? I'll bet you he thinks about it a lot.
Oh, sure. Well, you think, I'm kind of surprised, Bernie, I don't know if you are, that he hasn't lobbied yet for an Olympic gold medal with the Olympics around right now. I figured maybe he would be trying for that, some sort of honorary Olympian medal, but he hasn't done that. So that's yeah, I guess give him credit for that.
Maybe we're seeing a turn of events. What do you think?
Right. Yep.
Well, all right. I think we were sufficiently brilliant this week. It's Valentine's Day coming up, and I can't think of a better gift as a Valentine's Day gift. I'm smiling, laughing, than a subscription, a gift subscription to this website to keep us keep us alive and smiling.
Yeah, and you can't spell romance, Bernie, without BernardGoldberg.com.
I would have said that myself, but I thought that would be sort of.
Oh, I'll go low on that sort of stuff, Bernie. I don't have too much pride to say something like that.
No, I appreciate that very much. All right. Hope you have a good week, everybody. Hope you tell a friend. Our friend in Australia, get some Aussies to sign up, and we'll be really an international influential forum. And everybody else in the United States, sign up for a friend, get a gift. Okay, that's it for me. How about you, John?
I think that's it, Bernie.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody.